Coach Brent Venables gave us some health updates on the roster, as well as Ben Arbuckle gave us an idea of how he feels about Oklahoma now that he's here. He's fully immersed in the last 8 months. So let's talk about that a little bit more. But before we do that, welcome to Unfair Sports. I'm your host, Jay. Thank y'all for pulling up to the channel. As y'all know, it's fall camp, baby. We did a video earlier today where we dove into, honestly, what we feel like Oklahoma needs to do in order to be successful this season. There's 5 questions that I had, so make sure you check that out. We broke all of that down. But today, the first day of report, quote unquote, for fall camp. The coaches and a few players had some talks. We'll do a video on some of the players' quotes and stuff. Jaden Ott talk, Taylor Wine. We saw Jacob Sexton, Dominic Williams, and a few others. So we'll talk about those in another video. We'll talk about that tomorrow. I just need to dig a little bit deeper into what all they said. But Brent Venables gave us not only some health updates, but some of his thoughts about this team going into the season and kind of some of their plan going into fall camp. So let's kind of talk about some of the high things that Brent Venables gave us, as well as what Ben Arbuckle had to say. First up, BV walked in. You know, he was all excited. First, you got to see Ben Arbuckle. Ben Arbuckle led the way and had some conversations about some of the players. He talked about how he thinks Jaren Kanak has a great opportunity to do some big stuff. He likes the growth that he is seeing out of John Mateer now that he's here and fully immersed. And he really is big on the offensive line, a lot more than most people think. That got your boy excited. I like seeing that we feel very comfortable with the offensive line, and we think that they should be able to bounce back very well. And I'll give you all the health updates in a minute, but you know, one of the bigger ones, especially Ben Arbuckle raved about, is the offensive line watches more film together this summer than probably any position group in the building, which tells you what? They trying to figure out how to be better. They want to be good. They want to be great. And you heard some players stuck out. Eddie Pure-Louis jumped out. You heard really good things about Jacob Sexton, as well as Michael Fasusi. You know, the true freshman is starting to stand out as a leader. Troy Everett spoke. And of course, we know that Troy Everett is probably the voice of the defensive line. He even joked about him and R. Mason Thomas had a race and he won. Hey, I'm just the messenger, not saying much else besides that, but I love the fact that they're able to joke and feel comfortable doing that. Brent Venables also dove into some other things around the players and how we really feel about the roster. And Brent Venables kind of he didn't give you like a non-answer. He really talked about how this roster has made tremendous improvements since January. That, to me, says a lot. He feels like this is one of his best teams. And he knows that the offensive line has made a lot of strides in the offseason, a lot of chemistry. Like I said, they were the group that watched the most tape. I had a parent actually hit me up and say that he was hearing that the O-line really took the summer pretty serious, and their dedication is, we got to be better. We got to be much better. And so you're seeing that. So to me, that tells me that we're probably going to see a good 2-3 deep of linemen that will be prepared to play. Not saying that we're going to have to go that deep, knock on wood, things work out perfectly. It is, unfortunately, football. It's a sport that's dangerous, so injury's going to happen, but it was more of our focus is to make sure that we are as healthy as possible and play as well. Now, Brent Venables did talk about a little bit on the injury front. The first thing he talked about was the way they're going to approach things this year. So I know a lot of you are wondering, okay, what are we going to do to, not be hurt or blah, blah, blah. Physical sport, not much you can do. You got to be, in order to have physicality when you get into the season, you've got to practice your physicality. You got to practice how you play. But they are taking precautions in the way that they approach it. So they're going to take their time in the way that they push into camp. So it sounds like it's going to be a gradual piece. It's not going to be one of those where they just run out there and start beating the crap out of each other. They're going to take their time, and they're going to make sure that there's a lot of improvements over. And this is what BV said. This is a tough, challenging game. You got to practice physicality. We got to do a good job balancing that. And he said that from there, what they're going to do is, again, take their time and really build upon things and make sure that we're not cursed this year like we were last year. So with that being said, that makes me feel good. They're going to lean in on the data. They're going to take their time. They're going to look at, they're going to take everything seriously and make sure that when people need to come out, they're going to come out, and they're going to, they're going to work through that. That's why they hired a new head director of training, of the trainers or whatnot. So you've got that. Jonathan Grass he was with the Saints, and so they're focused on making sure that we're good to go in that world. So I'm not arguing or complaining in that capacity. I'm happy to hear that. That's what we needed. Now, when we talked injuries, though, BV gave us all a little update, I guess you could say. He gave us some details. So it sounds like Eli Bowen is out. He's still dealing with that ankle injury, and it sounds like he's going to miss the beginning of camp. It looks like Kendall Doby is going to miss the beginning of camp. It sounds like probably out of precaution. Also, BV said that they expect Doby to play some corner this year while Eli Bowen is dealing with that injury. Because as y'all know, Kendall Doby played corner in JUCO. He played a little corner here his first year, but then he got that cheetah spot, and he was really effective. And it's like, all right, we're going to play you there. Played that at the beginning of the season, looked amazing, and then when he got hurt, you start to see some of that with the defense. If we can have the majority of these players healthy going into that, I think that changes a lot of what goes down. And then he said that Giovanni Gibson remains on schedule. Didn't hear anything about Jaden, even though I've seen pictures of him walking around, no brace, no boot, none of that. Him and Jaden and Giovanni both have been walking around with no boots or anything. So it sounds like they're both on track to show up around the first game of the season. Hopefully that means that they're just doing non-contact stuff and they're working on their cutting and getting in shape, and then they actually can play closer to the Michigan game. That will be nice. We'll see where that goes with that. But BV has definitely got a lot of confidence in this roster, and keeping it a buck, I'm getting more and more confident because this is what we've been needing. We've been needing a feeling of things kind of normalizing and all of that. They also, BV raved about Taylor Wine. I talked about him in my 5 questions, who's going to be the edge guy. And yeah, 275 pounds is where Taylor Wine has gotten at 6'4", and they said he's faster than he was when he got here. And he came here at like 230. So he's put on 40-something pounds, I guess, of muscle, and he's still better. Not going to argue there. But I know the questions have been around the DB room. Now that Eli Bowen is down, Kendall Doby's going to slowly integrate into fall camp. Davon Jordan, as well as Jeremiah Newcomb, have been 2 names that have been mentioned a lot over the last few days. So it sounds like they're going to be doing some things. The expectation is with Doby taking his time, you'll see a lot of Reggie Powers III and some Kendall Daniels mixed in at the cheetah role in strong safety. I'm not upset. Kind of like that personally. That gets your boy excited. And then, of course, BV, I talked about it before, Eddie Pierre-Louis is one that's probably going to end up fighting for that starting left guard spot. You get him there, I'm thinking it's probably going to be Sexton, EPL, Troy Everett for Bichi Wewu, Derek Simmons to start. You'll see rotations of Fasusi and Foger in there, along with Hito Zaida, little Logan Howland. I feel like we're finally putting together an offensive line that's going to be effective this year. Let me know what y'all think. Hop in the comments. Want to hear y'all's thoughts. There were some other good notes that came out of there. Jaren Kanak is beloved. He never leaves the film room or the weight room or anything. The dude's always there. Ben Arbuckle is very impressed with him. And I know a few of you have mentioned in the comments, y'all want to see him play offense anyway. So here you go. It sounds like Ben Arbuckle is agreeing with every single one of y'all, and we can expect that to probably happen sometime soon. Yeah, I am excited. The players were fun. Jaden Ott had a lot to say about the differences between here and Cal. He even talked about, his injury status. I'll drop a video on that tomorrow afternoon to dive into the details of what Jaden Ott gave us, as well as what Taylor Wine. Wine was kind of quiet, but Troy Everett was definitely chatty. So keep an eyes out for that. Hit the like, subscribe, bell notification so you don't miss any of those videos. And yeah, we'll chop it up soon. Peace.